what we do here today is exactly what Ezra did that day. Listen to a few more verses. This is verse 4. Ezra the scribe stood at the wooden podium which they made for that purpose. Ezra and 13 other men, the scribes, spoke the words in the book. I'm not going to read you all that. And in verses 7 and 8, still in Nehemiah, they explained the law to the people while the people remained in their place. They read from the book, from the law of God. Notice this, translating to give the sense so that they understood the reading. This is the point. This is the point of true worshipers. They understand what they are worshiping. Notice this. Think about this. All the pagan nations that had idols and statues, they don't know what they worship. What's an idol? What's a statue? That's why they're always like, well, let's add God to our collection. Maybe that'll do us some good. And it never worked out for them. Do you understand that what we do here each week is not a pick-me-up message? This is for the building up of your spiritual mind. Your spiritual growth is based almost entirely on your understanding of Christ and God. So every message I prepare, every message I write and study for, I have copious amounts of info that never makes it into this. I carefully sift through all this so I can best construct the message that is emanating from within this text. Each week I write between 20 and 30 pages of notes and sermon notes. Some of them find their way up here. Many of the time I sift through all my notes, and usually I do this, and some of my notes may be true, but they're not always all relevant to the text, and I have to eliminate that out. Some of the statements I make in there are true, but I have to be careful to apply it to the text that we're actually reading. And I tell you this so that you understand why you're sitting here going through this. And that's also why we record it. But I record it for you because it's impossible for you to get everything that I'm saying. But you can go back and realize what you might have missed, so that hardly a moment of this time is wasted in my blathering about my own opinions. Who cares about my opinions? What does that matter? Who cares what I think on a subject? What does God think on the subject? What does God say? You say, okay, I get it, but what's your point? My point is I'm doing everything I know to do on my part for the worship. But here's the question. What are you doing? Are you doing everything on your part? Is the sermon the part that you tolerate? Dads, did you know that God expects you to lead your family spiritually? Not just be the breadwinner. This is society's secular thinking about biblical truth. Well, what does secular society know about biblical truth? They can't even figure out right now if a baby is a baby and if they should kill it or not. What do they know? So dads had better start to figure out biblical truth quick. And it starts here. Where are you feeding yourself? What are you feeding yourself? How are you feeding your kids? I'm sure you're feeding them a good diet, but where are they getting their spiritual diet from? You're teaching these little ones the command of God. And do you understand how to do that? Especially teens. Did you know that 80% of Christian teens, when they go to college, walk away from their faith as a result of their time in further education? 80%. Understanding Jesus loves me, this I know, is not going to make it anymore. If that's all they got, that and a few Noah's Ark stories, They're going to a gunfight for their spiritual lives completely unarmed. Completely unarmed. And it's not even just the professors or the teachers, it's the students, it's life, it's society chipping away at that foundation. And it begins with good preaching. It continues with good listeners, good hearers. Like we all know, James quoted, right? Don't be hearers of the word only, but doers also. The thing that bothers me about that is usually what's heard on that one is just be good doers. We don't need to worry about hearing. You know how you can tell if someone gets that they are a good hearer? If their lives have changed incrementally, one notch at a time. If your theology hasn't changed you, you have bad theology. You say, I don't like theology, I just follow Jesus. You have to understand theology. Or you cannot send yourself into the world for a spiritual gunfight and be completely unarmed. Because it's not even people, atheists, coming trying to take away your faith. It's Satan himself will lurk after the weakest one walking around, and he will relentlessly bombard you until you walk away or you're totally destroyed in your faith. And you may be saved, but you may be completely held down and overwhelmed because you're not changing your mind about what you understand about God. The thing about this is, people who have disinterest in theology, many times their lives are characterized by a mess. They love Jesus, but they have no solid basis to stand on. But you're not supposed to be sliding through the gates of heaven like on a baseball field, just hoping that you make it across the plate. The idea is when you come from this side to the other side, that when you cross over, that you're ready, right? You're ready for that transition. You understand that when you're on your deathbed, you're ready to meet God. You know Him. We're not like the pagans who don't understand what they worship. You understand who you worship, unlike the pagans. And that only comes from spiritual growth, period.